It was a quiet winter morning in Oregon, cold, still, and ordinary. 13-year-old Miranda Gaddis tied her shoelaces, slung her backpack over her shoulder, and waved goodbye to her mother from the kitchen doorway. She was supposed to meet her friends at the bus stop, like every other school day. But this morning would be different. Somewhere between her doorstep and the corner of the street, Miranda vanished. No one saw her get on the bus. No one saw her walking back home. It was as if the earth itself had swallowed her whole. 2 months earlier, another girl, her best friend, Ashley Pond, had disappeared under almost identical circumstances. The same neighborhood, the same silence. What began as two missing person cases would soon unravel into one of Oregon's darkest and most disturbing stories, a tale of trust, betrayal, and evil hiding in plain sight. If you're a fan of true crime and criminal investigations, you won't want to miss our new book, The Ultimate Book of Serial Killers: 180 Files of the World's Most Notorious Murderers, now available on Amazon. You can also purchase the PDF version directly from our website for instant download. You'll find the link in the video description and in a pinned comment. Now, let's dive into today's case. Born on March 1st, 1989, in the state of Oregon, Ashley Pond entered a world already marked by change. Her parents, Lowry and Wesley, separated soon after her birth, leaving her to grow up under the care of her mother and, later, a stepfather she believed was her real dad. For years she carried that belief as truth, until one day, the fragile image of her family shattered. Her mother divorced the man, and Ashley learned the painful reality that he wasn't her biological father. In time, Ashley began visiting her real father, Wesley, on weekends. On the surface, she seemed like any other young girl, bright, kind, and full of dreams. She loved hip-hop music, dreamed of becoming a veterinarian, and had a gentle nature that made her easy to love. Her warmth drew people in, though she was often shy around strangers. Among her circle of friends, one stood out: Miranda Gaddis. Miranda, born on November 18, 1988, shared many things with Ashley. They were in the same class, both loved to dance, and were members of their school's dance team. They practiced for hours together, pushing each other to do better. They also lived in the same apartment complex in a quiet suburb southeast of Portland. But behind Miranda's cheerful personality was a childhood marked by trauma far more painful than most could imagine. When Miranda was just 6 years old, in February 1995, her father, Jason, was arrested and later convicted on charges of kidnapping and abusing two minors. During his arrest, he used Miranda as a shield, threatening to harm her if the police didn't back away. Officers eventually managed to restrain him and take him into custody. Jason was sentenced to 6 months in jail and 54 years of supervised release. The event tore Miranda's family apart. Her parents divorced, and her mother began a relationship with another man, one who would end up causing even deeper harm. He too abused Miranda and was later convicted. Afterward, Miranda and her siblings were removed from their home and placed in foster care for 18 months. During that time, Miranda received therapy at school to help her recover from the trauma. Through that process, she learned to set strong boundaries and to speak up when she sensed danger, skills that would one day define her character and also, in a tragic twist, lead her into another dark chapter. Meanwhile, Ashley's life began to take its own devastating turn. What had started as innocent weekend visits with her biological father, Wesley, soon became unsafe. On Christmas Eve of the year 2000, after enduring repeated abuse, 12-year-old Ashley finally reached her breaking point. She gathered the courage to tell someone what had been happening. Just 12 days later, on January 5, 2001, Wesley was charged with 40 counts of abuse spanning several years. The case shocked everyone who knew the quiet, affectionate girl with the big smile and love for dancing. Around the same time, a new family moved into the same apartment complex where Ashley and Miranda lived. Their daughter, Mallory, soon joined the same school and quickly became friends with the two girls, eventually joining their dance team as well. Mallory's family included her 19-year-old brother, Francis, and her father, Ward Weber III, along with his partner. It was Ward, Mallory's father, whose presence would later prove pivotal in this story. Born on April 6, 1963, in California, his life had been filled with turmoil from the start. When he was only 4, his father abandoned the family. His mother remarried a man who drank heavily and often became violent. They eventually moved to Oregon, where Ward endured years of physical abuse at the hands of his stepfather. In turn, he began taking out his anger on his younger siblings. By the time he was 15, he discovered that his biological father had been imprisoned for abuse, something his family had tried to hide by telling him his father was away on a trip. The revelation left deep scars. From that moment on, his behavior became increasingly antisocial, setting him on a path that would bring pain to many others in the years to come. In 1981, a teenage girl came forward accusing Ward of abuse. Police opened an investigation, but prosecutors declined to press charges, arguing that Ward would soon be leaving the state after enlisting in the Navy Reserves. His time in the military, however, was short-lived. While serving, he met the woman who would become his first wife, but his career ended abruptly just a year later. He was discharged for heavy drinking and abandoning his post. Back home, the violence that marked his youth began to repeat itself. During his wife's 5th month of pregnancy, Ward attacked her so brutally that she had to be hospitalized. She never filed charges. In December 1982, their son Francis was born. 2 years later, tragedy struck the family again, but this time from another generation. Ward's own father was convicted and sentenced to death for murdering a young couple and burying their bodies in his backyard. Authorities also suspected that he could be responsible for as many as 24 other killings. As if following a doomed pattern, Ward continued down the same destructive path. After moving to California and remarrying, he assaulted a teenage girl and was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Upon his release, he settled in Oregon, where he started a small shop with his wife and had more children. But once again, violence found its way into his home. His wife eventually filed for divorce and obtained a restraining order against him. Forced to raise his children alone, Ward soon began another relationship, one that would end like the rest. In 1995, after physically assaulting his new partner, he was sent back to prison. When he was released, she decided not to testify against him. Incredibly, they reconciled and even got married. But stability never lasted long in Ward's life. While working as a mail clerk in a small business, he began seeing another woman and eventually abandoned his wife. At that point, only Mallory, his youngest daughter, lived with him. Francis, then a restless teenager, had gone off on his own. Around the year 2000, however, Francis found himself in serious trouble. He had been caught in another state firing a rifle at a truck full of teenagers. With nowhere else to go, he was sent back to live with his father. In that home, where Mallory's innocence shielded her from recognizing the darkness surrounding her family, Ashley and Miranda spent most of their afternoons. The three girls were inseparable. After school, they would walk together to buy snacks, laugh for hours, and often have sleepovers that lasted late into the night, watching horror movies and whispering secrets. Ward seemed pleased by the visits. By then, his girlfriend had left him, and Francis had moved out again, leaving him alone in the house except for his young daughter and her friends. But in August 2001, that apparent calm shattered when Ashley reported to the police that Ward had tried to assault her. At the same time, Ashley's biological father, Wesley, was awaiting trial for the 40 charges of abuse she had previously brought against him. Desperate to avoid prison, Wesley and his attorney crafted a strategy not based on innocence, but on discrediting Ashley, painting her as unstable and prone to lying. When Wesley learned that his daughter had now accused Ward of assault, he wasted no time. He passed the information to his lawyer, who immediately questioned Ward about it. Ward's response was chilling. He told them he would testify in favor of Wesley and accuse Ashley of making everything up. These manipulative tactics, combined with the defense team's relentless efforts to destroy the girl's credibility, worked. In a plea deal favorable to Wesley, prosecutors dropped all but one charge. He received only 120 months of probation. Ward, on the other hand, faced no legal consequences at all. No one realized on that grim day, when Wesley and his lawyer celebrated their so-called victory, that Ward now felt empowered and enraged. He was free to take revenge on the 12-year-old who had dared to speak out. Then came the morning of January 9, 2002. Ashley left her home to walk to the nearby bus stop, as she did every school day. But that morning, she never arrived. Her trail vanished completely. Despite having no history of running away, police quickly labeled her a runaway case. No large-scale search was organized, and no serious investigation began. Among the friends who joined the family-led search efforts was Miranda. At first, she felt afraid, an unease she couldn't explain, a sense that something far darker was at play. And sadly, she was right. At first, Miranda tried to convince herself that Ashley really had run away. It seemed like the only explanation. After all, Ashley hadn't called anyone, not even her best friends, Miranda or Mallory. Still, something inside Miranda felt uneasy. As the days passed and no one heard from Ashley, that unease turned into fear. The story began to spread through the community, and soon local media picked it up. When interviewed, Miranda spoke about how painful and confusing it all was. To her, Ashley was like a sister. The school's dance team organized a fundraiser to offer a reward for any information that could lead to Ashley's return. Miranda decided to perform a solo routine as a tribute to her missing friend. The performance was set for March 23, 2002. But tragically, Miranda would never get the chance to perform it. On the morning of March 8th, everything seemed normal. Miranda's mother, Michelle, left for work after seeing her 13-year-old daughter in the kitchen getting ready for school. But just after 1:30 p.m., Michelle received a call from her eldest daughter. Miranda hadn't shown up for class. When she called the school to confirm, her worst fears began to take shape. Miranda hadn't attended any of her classes that day. Nearly 2 months had passed since Ashley's disappearance. This time, Michelle didn't hesitate. She immediately contacted authorities. The FBI stepped in, forming a special task force to search for both girls. At a press conference, An FBI spokesperson admitted that investigators now believe the two disappearances might be connected, and that foul play was likely involved. The agency announced a $50,000 reward for information leading to the girls' safe return or to the arrest of whoever was responsible. Posters with the girls' photos were plastered across Oregon, and soon the case made national and even international headlines. In front of countless cameras and microphones, both mothers, Michelle and Lowry, pleaded for help. Michelle insisted her daughter would never have willingly gone with a stranger. Lowry, who had stayed quiet for weeks after losing her daughter, finally spoke publicly, breaking down as she begged for answers. By mid-March, FBI profilers had arrived in the area to assist local authorities. On television, agents urged residents to stay alert and to pay attention to certain behaviors: someone new in the neighborhood, a person showing signs of increased drinking or drug use, or someone who seemed unusually restless, staying up all night. They didn't say why, but the message was clear. The danger might be closer than anyone imagined. Fear quickly spread through the neighborhood. The once lively community, filled with children playing outside and mothers chatting on their porches, turned silent and tense. Parents didn't know what to be afraid of. Was there a stranger lurking near the bus stop? Or was it someone familiar, someone who had knocked on doors that very morning after Michelle had left for work? Some families couldn't bear the uncertainty and decided to move away altogether. One neighbor voiced what many others were thinking. She told reporters she agreed with the mothers. It had to be someone they knew. If a stranger had snatched the girls violently, someone would have seen or heard something. But Ashley and Miranda had seemed to vanish into thin air. Reporters kept digging. Among them was a local journalist who began to sense inconsistencies in the investigation. Two early tips guided her toward a man who had been close to both girls, Ward. When the journalist reached out, Ward agreed without hesitation. Eager to appear innocent, he even invited her into his home and encouraged her to record the conversation. Sitting calmly on his couch, he smiled as he denied knowing anything about the missing girls. His demeanor was disturbingly relaxed. Ward admitted that his past, and his connection to both Ashley and Miranda, made him an obvious suspect, but he insisted he had nothing to hide. Without being prompted, he brought up Ashley's accusation against him, even referencing his own father's violent criminal history. He claimed he wasn't afraid of the FBI and said they could investigate him all they wanted. When the journalist asked where he had been during the girls' disappearances, Ward said simply that he'd been at home. Before leaving, she requested a tour of the house. Ward agreed and began showing her around, starting with the bedrooms. What she didn't know was that behind those calm smiles and confident words, the truth was far darker than anyone could have imagined. As the interview continued, the journalist followed Ward outside to the backyard. He kept talking casually as they stepped onto a patch of freshly poured concrete. The reporter couldn't help but recall the rumors that had been circulating among neighbors, whispers about that strange new slab behind his house. When she asked about it, Ward gave the same explanation he'd been repeating to anyone who would listen. He was planning to install a hot tub. Over the following days, Ward failed 2 separate polygraph tests, though he blamed the results on what he called police incompetence. As the story gained national coverage, he continued to deny any involvement in the girls' disappearances. On a morning talk show, he even accused Lowry, Ashley's mother, of being an irresponsible parent. Despite growing suspicions, several girls from the neighborhood spoke publicly in his defense. They said they had never felt threatened by him. For some, his house even became a place of comfort, a refuge from the fear that gripped the community after Ashley and Miranda vanished. Ironically, because police and reporters were constantly around his property, it seemed to them the safest place to be. To outsiders, Ward appeared quiet and guarded, but Mallory, his daughter, adored him. She couldn't imagine that her father was capable of doing anything truly terrible. Unfortunately, the truth would soon destroy that illusion. On August 13th, 2002, Ward's son Francis called police, claiming his father had tried to assault his 19-year-old girlfriend. But what truly caught investigators' attention was Francis's next statement. He suspected his father might have had something to do with the disappearance of the two missing girls. His reasoning pointed straight to the backyard, the concrete slab. Ward was arrested for the attempted assault, and soon after, police obtained a search warrant for his property. On Saturday, August 24th, 2002, FBI agents launched a full-scale excavation of the house and surrounding land. What they found was horrifying. Inside a shed at the back of the property, agents discovered a microwave oven box containing the remains of Miranda. The next day, they unearthed Ashley's body, hidden beneath the concrete slab in a 200-liter metal barrel, carefully buried and sealed. Both girls were identified through dental records. Investigators learned that 3 days after Miranda went missing, Ward had hired his own son to help prepare the ground for that same concrete slab. Francis dug a large pit, placed metal barrels in it, and covered them with dirt, never suspecting what his father intended to do next. When Miranda disappeared, Ward told his son he would finish the work alone. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community. Friends, relatives, and neighbors gathered for a candlelight vigil across the street. Miranda's older sister stayed silent, hidden beneath the hood of her sweatshirt. When she briefly lifted it, her pale face and swollen eyes revealed the unbearable weight of grief her family carried. Meanwhile, Michelle reminded reporters that everyone was also deeply worried about Mallory, who had been placed in temporary state custody following her father's arrest. No one had seen her all weekend. Michelle said she couldn't imagine the torment Mallory must be feeling, mourning her best friends while beginning to realize that her own father might have been responsible. On October 2nd, 2002, Ward was formally charged with abuse, desecration of a corpse, and 6 counts of aggravated murder. Though there were only 2 victims, state law allowed multiple murder charges under different aggravating circumstances. His bail was set at $1 million. From his jail cell, Ward continued to fight. In several interviews, he claimed he was being framed and even showed reporters documents he said proved prosecutors had no direct evidence against him. He accused police of hiding proof that the girls had been killed by members of a drug and biker gang, a bizarre conspiracy theory. Some of his documents did reveal investigative gaps, such as autopsies failing to establish exactly how or when the girls died. Still, the district attorney maintained that the circumstantial evidence was strong enough to convict. As the months passed, Ward's confidence began to crumble. After his televised jail interviews, prosecutors imposed a gag order to stop him from speaking to the media. Soon after, his defense attorneys requested to withdraw from the case, claiming he had stopped communicating with them. When the court denied that request, they argued that their client was mentally unfit to stand trial. During the hearing, Ward sat silently, head bowed. He was sent to the Oregon State Hospital for evaluation. After a short period, doctors declared him competent, and the case resumed. At the August 25, 2003 hearing, the court announced that the trial would be moved to another jurisdiction to ensure impartiality. Ward didn't even attend, showing complete detachment, or perhaps resignation. Finally, in September 2004, during a public court session covered by national media, Ward pleaded guilty to the most serious charges and chose not to contest the rest. He remained silent throughout, answering only direct questions from the judge. Thanks to a plea agreement, he avoided the death penalty and was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. Years later, in 2009, Miranda's younger sister visited Ward twice in prison, searching for answers and closure. During those visits, he confessed, not only to killing Miranda and Ashley, but also to planning to murder her next. He told her that on the morning Miranda disappeared, she had walked up the hill toward the bus stop and accidentally witnessed something he was doing. Terrified, she was manipulated into his control. Ward said he used Ashley as bait to lure Miranda closer before carrying out his final deception. As for Ashley, he admitted killing her because he feared she would report him for abuse, a fear that, tragically, became the motive for 2 innocent girls' deaths. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.